Torej, poleg vsem znane težave z odpadno embalažo, pa velik pritisk na okolje predstavljajo odpadne baterije. Pomembno rešitev na tem področju prinašajo standardi GS1 in uvedba baterijskega potnega lista. Vse bolj se gradi na potnem listu izdelkov in GS1 ima osrednjo vlogo pri kreiranju rešitev na nivoju Evropske unije. Torej, spoznali bomo novo področje, potni list izdelka. Preko video povezave se nam bo v živo pridružil gospod Staffan Olsson iz GS1 Švedske. Gospod Olsson že leta deluje na področju podpore podjetjem pri izboljšavi njihovih logističnih verig, kot tudi business-to-business učinkovitosti. To dosega na način, da podjetjem pomaga pri transformaciji načina komunikacije z njihovimi poslovnimi partnerji in drugimi podjetji z uporabo moderne tehnologije in standardov. Hello, Mr. Olsson. It's nice to see you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very fine, thank you. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. Your subject for today will be the connection between product passport and batteries.
Yes.
Production process of a modern battery has a big impact on our environment. Batteries are also the power source of many of our modern gadgets, which are an integral part of our society. Everything from entertainment, utility, medical applications, all the way to the transport sector. However, batteries have a somehow limited lifespan and are often discarded before the gadget itself. So the option of reusing at least part of the materials, of which some are quite rare and difficult to obtain, could both lower the cost and reduce the environmental impact on battery production. So I understand that this issue is already being tackled by Global Battery Alliance in a project called Battery Passport. As GS1 is part of this global effort, can you tell us more about this project, what it aims to achieve, and what role do GS1 standards play in it?
Yes, I will come to that in just a moment, but the idea here is there is some legislative background, so the regulators of Europe have decided to put themselves in charge of this topic and to help the battery industry to be more sustainable. But also, since batteries, as you mentioned, are used in many types of products, they have to rely on open standards. So you can't have a specific solution for batteries, since batteries are in toys, they're in healthcare gadgets, they're in electronics, they're everywhere. So they interconnect with many other industries. So that's why it's so important for the Global Battery Alliance, which organizes the battery industry of the world, to have a global and open solution for this. Right, so should I start my presentation, maybe? So hopefully I will pick the right screen here. There we go. Does it share correctly?
Yes, it's perfect.
Good. So I'll talk about product passports for batteries based on pretty much existing GS1 standards, which is a good thing. So we don't have to start from scratch inventing something completely new to help this industry. But I will start with giving a short background on what the European Commission is doing, what the Global Battery Alliance is doing and who they are, and then coming back to where GS1 standards come in and to help this, to resolve this challenge. So this is just an overview that came out last year from GS1 in Europe's Circular Economy Action Plan. So this is a busy slide. I'm not going to go on into all the details, but to the left, you see the different types of topics that they address. So it says a sustainable product policy framework. They have selected some key value chains that they want to target. And there's also about this less waste, more value. So there are different programs in this. You waving to me? No? Sorry. So, and they selected these product categories here, and they started to prioritize and start working with batteries first. So the batteries is kind of a product category that was selected to be, if we can do this with batteries, we can do it with everything. So batteries comes first, and especially focusing on large batteries, so batteries that are powering electric cars or other industrial applications. So batteries with a capacity of more than 2 kilowatt hours storage. So that's what came out. And now this year they're working on the Sustainable Product Initiative, which is also something coming out of the European Union. And this battery program comes in there. It's not mentioned as a priority product group since it's already in the program. So this is for the things that are coming up. But the whole idea here of this effort from the European Union is to improve product durability, reusability, upgradability, and repairability. That's some nice words there. And using more recycling contents, we manufacture and refurbish products, reduce carbon footprint, not have single-use products so much. Also promote digitalization, so you can manage more data digitally rather than on paper. And also link incentives to sustainability to make it more business friendly to be sustainable, and also include social aspects in the whole life cycle where possible. So I just want to give a little bit of this background. So making it a little bit more concrete, the European Union also created this concept of digital product passport. So they want to use the digital product passport to nurture the Sustainable Product Initiative. And they've divided this program into 3 different parts here. So the what, the how, and the aim, or the purpose of this. So the what is that to have and this doesn't come from GS1. It sounds like it could come from GS1, but it actually comes from the Commission. So it's a structured collection of product-specific data conveyed through a unique identifier with access based on a need-to-know basis. So you need to have access to data. On the how side, it's a decentralized system interconnected with existing databases and IT systems. So it's not the European Commission creating a new huge database with that all the companies have to upload their data to. So it's more like connecting the data sources that are already out there or should be out there. And the aim is that this could be also a tool to support digital transformation for the European market, value chain transparency, new business models that are boosting more sustainable choices for different stakeholders. So this is some of the background that led the battery industry to figure out that they need to do something about this. So they started this initiative and they came to GS1. So in various ways, Global Battery Alliance and us found each other, and a memorandum of understanding was signed the 20th of May this year, figuring out how to work together. So they have the business need to, or their members have the business need to comply with all these regulations coming up. And our aim is to make it more useful to be a GS1 user or a GS1 member or GS1 subscriber. So we want to help them tell companies how to use GS1 standards to comply with this regulation. That's pretty much our aim. And here are a few of the members of the Global Battery Alliance. So it's not only companies that are over here to the right, but also other stakeholders, including GS1 in the middle here, but also many others. And this is not the complete list. There are more members, especially from the industry side, all types of battery manufacturers, car manufacturers, companies supplying the ingredients to make up batteries. Even mining companies are in this because they need to cover the whole supply chain. So moving to what the Global Battery Alliance says. So here I had permission to borrow some of their slides. So this is how the Battery Alliance looks at this, what they want to do. So the battery passport, as they see it, will fulfill 3 functions, supporting their industry being more sustainable. So transparency is one. If you're more transparent, you have to be better because people can see what you're doing. Also for benchmarking and standard settings, you can compare, various competing supply chains can then compare themselves to each other, at least on the data that is publicly available. And of course, you can also track progress to see that you're improving over time. So if you measure constantly something in your supply chain and you keep track of your performance, you can also follow the improvements of that performance. And here are a few of, this is a quite old slide, so this is several months old, so it may have changed, but this is the initial analysis from the Battery Alliance when they thought well, these are the type of parameters or the type of data that we need to include in the product passport concept. So it's environmental information, so like energy mix, how much greenhouse gas emissions has this battery generated through its when it was manufactured, and all kinds of data about that. Also social aspects, so how can you guarantee that the mines that where you source your lithium has no child labor, for instance? How is that done? And that's not only an IT problem, of course. There's also a lot of challenges creating trust, that you can actually trust this data. So that's the social pillar. It's the governance side of things and also economic side of things. So this is pretty much what they see. And I think this list has actually grown since then, but also many of these things are mentioned specifically in the EU legislation. So the project manager from in the GBA is a gentleman called Dr. Torsten Freud, and he's with the BASF company. That is a big supplier to battery companies. He created these slides, by the way, and especially the next slide he created. And this kind of describes how the data will be collected through the lifetime of a battery. So the starting point is actually when the materials that go into the battery are still in the ground. So nothing has happened yet. And the first thing that happens is that you have a mine. So that you pick up some of the material from the mine. And also that means that the first data is recorded about this product. And these are in this category here for the production data. And you move on to produce raw materials for this based on these raw materials, and some more data is generated. And then you go to the next stage, which is cell production for the smallest pieces of the batteries. Then even more production data is generated and recorded. Then you generate or you build a battery pack that contains these cells. And then you have even more data so then you can also create the product passport, because the product passport is for the finished battery. So you have the identifier and some other identifiers for the battery, but also you inherit all the production data that has been generated up to that point. Beyond that, you probably put this, in this example, you put it in an electric vehicle. So you have even more production data. So the production data and the identification data is then finished. But then when you use the battery during the lifetime of that battery in the car, you have also operational data that is generated. So each time you charge the battery, some data is generated. And if it's refurbished and maybe has a second life, even more data is generated. So finally, it's being recycled. And then when it's recycled, you have the complete data, and then it's taken apart and moved to the other side as raw material again. So this is kind of what the product passport concept is about for the battery industry. And of course, this looks like a simple or a fairly complex slide, but this is very simplified, of course. So it's a lot of complexity and a lot of parties that are being involved in this. So what's GS1's role in this? Well, as you know, and I watched the previous presentation without, not understanding every word of it, but I saw the slides, so I know you had a deep discussion on barcode technology. And of course, what we're doing now is actually reusing the same ideas, but adapting the barcodes to the web. So we have this nice barcode that we've had for a long time. And the purpose of the GTIN and the barcode like this was always to connect a product to data about the product. Initially, with only this barcode, it's for closed systems. So within a store, you connect it to the point of sale checkout system. But still, you connect the product to the data. So what we're doing is when adapting this to the web, is just working with web technology. So we stick the GTIN into a web address, and we use the same application identifiers as was used in the previous presentation, indicating that this is a GTIN, but it's also inside a web address. And you can also add things at the end, like in this example, I added a serial number using the same application identifiers as we do for other things. It could be also batch numbers or best before dates, like that. And web addresses are very easy to encode into 2D barcodes, like data matrix code or QR codes. And these data matrix code and QR codes, especially the native versions, which are not encoded according to GS1 syntax, can be scanned and read by almost all mobile phones in the world, and also many other scanners. So we created this new standard, and we call it the GS1 Digital Link, which pretty much uses the old, traditional GS1 technologies, combine them with the traditional web technologies, and also use these existing 2D barcodes. So I think nothing on this slide is newer than 25 years. It's just a combination that is new. So using GS1 standards and web standards and 2D barcode standards. Both these barcodes were invented in 1993, so they're not that new anymore. So this is GS1 Digital Link. And now how can we meet the needs of the business needs for the batteries? So there are 4 business needs basically that are reflected in the Global Battery Alliance initiative. So there's a business need for unique identification of each battery pack, as specified in the legislation. There's also a business need for QR code or something similar that can be engraved of metal. And if I understood correctly, the previous presenter also mentioned that the 2D barcodes like data matrix is actually, it works fine to etch or engrave this on metal. So that's, we know that. There's also a business need to uniquely identify multiple data sources. So connect the single identifier to multiple data sources. And there's a business need to define the data that goes into this beautiful model that the GBA has created. So what does GS1 have in its product portfolio to start as a starting point? So we do have for 1 and 2 here. I understand this is quite small, but still, so there is an existing standard obviously for GTIN and serial number. And there's also an application standard from GS1, how this is used and engraved on metal using 2D barcodes. And this is the standard that is created for identification of components and parts in the rail industry. And this was launched in GS1 about 10 years ago. And it's being widely used. So we know that GS1 identifiers can be encoded in 2D barcodes and engraved on metal, and it works. So that we know that. There's also the digital link standard, so where we can link the unique identifier to multiple data sources. And there's the digital link standard also contains this concept of a resolver, which actually is a database of links, or a standard for a database of links. So you can have links with data that has data connected to this specific instance of a product. So there's also a standard from GS1 how to standardize the data for that. So we have something called the GS1 web vocabulary, which is a catalog of attributes or terms. It doesn't have all the things needed for batteries, but it's being maintained, and we work with other parties in the world to do this. So this can easily be extended to meet the needs of the GBA. So basically what we're saying to the Global Battery Alliance and their members is that we can help you. We don't have something final packaged for you, but we have all the components in this recipe. So if you just create a new menu with the same ingredients, pretty much. So coming back to this, why we're doing this for GS1, since the battery industry is not a traditional industry to work with. But coming back to this list here in the middle is quite nice. So it actually has some of the other industries that we work with more closely. So of course, electronics and ICT, batteries I already mentioned. Also packaging is mentioned in this EU legislation, plastics, textiles, construction and buildings, and also food, which is our kind of our home turf. Construction is growing strongly. So it is for us, I think, quite strategic to work with the batteries. So if we get this right, the EU Commission and other industries will know that GS1 is the place to go if you want to resolve and comply with the new regulations on product passports. Now I will try to stop sharing if I just find the right button.
Thank you, Mr. Olsen. It seems like the cooperation between the industry, the regulator, and of course the GS1 is seriously important with this quite environmental project.
Yes.
But How has been initiated? Has been initiated by regulators such as the European Union or by the industry?
Actually, by industry. So I think thanks to the good work of GS1 in Europe, so the former chairman François Deprez, CEO of GS1 France, and also Francesca Paggiali that works on public policy they've been, knowing that this was coming from the regulators, so they have been initiating and been in contact with the Global Battery Alliance, and also at a later stage the European Battery Alliance. So it's been we've been cooperating, but they actually the industry approached GS1 on this topic to get our support for this.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all your information that you gave us and for seriously interesting topic. Thank you, Mr. Olsen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Naj še na tem mestu povem, da je gospod Olsen za našo revijo Novice opravil tudi intervju, v katerem govori o GS1 Digital Linku. To je še ena novost iz palete standardov GS1, ki ponuja odgovor na vedno večje potrebe trga po dodatnih podatkih. Revija bo na voljo po novem letu, člani jo boste kot vsako leto prejeli po pošti.